stress? I mean, Paul Flynn's report, or shall I summarise what's happened, or what would be interesting?
It'll be a conversation.
Right.
I'm going to ask you to summarise what's happened since the last time we talked to you. See, because this is an update.
Right.
And when I met you, it was in October.
Yeah, I think it was September or October, yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was September. That's right.
Yeah,
it was September. Yeah, it was September. And so there's quite a lot of water under the bridge since September.
Right.
And this whole thing seems to have evaporated. It's just like, it's not in the news, no one's talking about it. All the people who were really talking about it a lot on the internet, that's all kind of, that's all evaporated too. And everyone's thinking, what was that all about? And so I'd like to ask you, what was that all about? What have we all learned? What do you think happened? What's the optimistic message for us all? And then a personal note about what your personal plans are, because I think you've got a lot of people there out there who really love you and who want to know what you're up to and what you're thinking and what's next. And it's a chance to talk about the book and, you know.
Yeah, I'm off to my Greek island.
Off to your Greek island. Yes, exactly. So,
okay,
let's make a start here. I don't even know what date it is. It's the 15th, isn't it?
Yes, 15th.
Okay, right. So here we go. So this is Bill Ryan from Project Camelot and Project Avalon, and it is the 15th of February 2010, and I'm in a very rustic farmhouse in the middle of Switzerland here, which is where Jane Burgermeister has been staying in her bed and breakfast, having given a presentation to the Zurich ground crew yesterday. We're surrounded by snow. There's an enormous cowbell just behind Jane's head here on the right of the camera. It's all very idyllic and very quaint. And this is a short interview to catch up with you, Jane, to ask you, since we spoke with you last, which was in September last year, feels like a long time ago, what has happened from your perspective, what's happened with you, and what's happened to the swine flu?
Well, the swine flu has fortunately disappeared. It's no longer in the newspapers, it's no longer in the media. No, people are no longer being driven or encouraged to take the vaccine to the same degree as a few months ago when it was omnipresent in our lives. Very few people have taken the vaccine in Europe. I think 30 million out of 450 million or whatever. So much smaller proportion than the governments had hoped. In France, they wanted to vaccinate 100% of the population by the end of January, and I think only 6% took it there. 6 or 7% took it in Germany and in the UK and so on, and also in countries like Switzerland. I think 60 million people took it in the USA, according to the figures of the CDC. Again, maybe quite a small portion of the total population of 400 million is it in the USA. So we have seen an incredible awakening among people. They have become aware that the vaccination was more dangerous than the virus, that it contains toxic ingredients, mercury and squalene, and they have passed that information and shared it around with their friends and their colleagues. And people have not gone and taken this vaccination. They have not given in to fears. They have not allowed themselves to be manipulated into taking something that is actually more dangerous than the actual virus. And this has been achieved through the use of the communication and information technology, through the email, through YouTube, through interviews like yours. So I think it's a tremendous event we've experienced where ordinary people have decided to think for themselves, think critically, examine the facts, and not just to follow authorities, governments, or newspapers and take some vaccine for a non-existent threat.
It's nice to have a real victory for a worldwide grassroots movement, isn't it? This is what it is.
Absolutely. Even the World Health Organization Director General Dr. Chan said to her at the executive board meeting on January the 18th that they didn't anticipate that people wouldn't take this vaccination. They'd invested billions in propaganda, and the controlled media was hyping this virus. So this was really an unexpected victory, and was due to every single person who spread that information, who took the time and trouble to read about it, to maybe tell their friends, their colleagues, their other members of the family. So what it has revealed to my mind is the extraordinary intelligence and solidarity of people out there, that they do care about their neighbours, their friends. They are willing to pass on this information, and though it was quite difficult to grasp and quite unpleasant to grasp, they were willing to take the trouble to look at the facts and get to the truth in many, many cases.
So you're not just talking about people who for many years may have done a lot of research into secret government plans on the internet. You're talking about regular people waking up, looking at the information in front of them, taking stock, acting intelligently and realising what was happening.
I think that is what we're seeing. We're seeing a completely new scale of awareness among the ordinary people, that we have a big problem with our governments. I was just talking to somebody yesterday who said that her mother, who's about 60 years old, has always taken every single vaccine and believed that the governments were representing the interests of people. But when it came to the swine flu vaccine, she looked at the facts and decided not to take it. And slowly she's becoming aware that the government that is giving this vaccine doesn't have the interests of its people at heart, and beginning to ask questions about why are they doing this, who's behind it, what is their motivation. So I think we're seeing in Europe a huge awakening that we have a big problem. We have a shadow government. We have an international corporate crime syndicate, as I call it, who are controlling governments, health ministries, who are pushing this poison onto populations.
And the governments have got an interesting problem on the other side, because they've got a population now that isn't necessarily going to be willing to take things at face value anymore.
That is something that Dr. Margaret Chan of the World Health Organization herself said. She said we cannot no longer assume that when we say a medicine or drug is to be recommended, that people will actually take it. There's been a tremendous collapse in demand for vaccines among the people in Germany and France, and I'm sure also America, even when it comes to vaccinating their young children against mumps, as a result of the skepticism that has surrounded this whole swine flu campaign. We are seeing the beginning of a tremendous increase in interest in homeopathic remedies and vitamins, in the importance of good nourishing food. So, and a much more critical attitude towards government, as you mentioned.
Now, many people will be watching this in America. They may not be aware of what happened in Poland with the health minister there. That's a fascinating development, wasn't it?
That was a key development, because the health minister in Poland, Eva Kopacz, is actually a doctor, a family doctor, and she looked at this swine flu vaccine. She saw that it was not adequately tested, and she decided not to order the swine flu vaccines for the Polish people on the basis of the fact that it could be dangerous, potentially dangerous to them. And she was the only health minister of all the health ministers in Europe who made that decision. Even though, if you looked at the facts soberly, objectively, you would think every single health minister would have decided not to, purchase the swine flu vaccine. Her decision not to purchase the vaccine was a turning point, I think, in the campaign. It was quite widely publicised, and it made people aware that there are responsible politicians and doctors who recognise there's a problem with this vaccine.